Hey Taurus, this is Seven Scorpion Tarot, and I want to welcome you to tonight's reading. So, tonight, what I was seeing in your sign is Uranus. So, what that means we'll be looking into is rebellion, areas of rebellion, and that's happening in the 12th house right now. So, dream big. Delulu is a Salulu, with the 12th house. And so, setting your sights on something that seems too lofty to even be possible. I know for me, uh, a big theme of rebellion that would be the dream that I've had since I was little, standing up to the patriarchy. That was me utilizing my voice was something that was discouraged, um, to say the least, to say the actual least, when I was younger. My voice is what I think I have been most criticized for. The things I had to say were disobedient. Um, I don't know what's that. There's a disorder that like unruly kids get diagnosed with. Um, it's like defiant something disorder. I was very defiant as a kid. Always had an issue with authority and whatnot. Um, and I posted something recently on the Instagram page of like it's not a marker of health to be well adjusted to a sick society. And that was a point I was never able to drive home, uh, really to anyone that had an issue with my voice. And I'm realizing now as an adult, I just don't think they cared. They didn't want to deal with it. So we'll do a self shadow and ego and see, dig a little bit deeper, either what do we need to or want to rebel against right now? How do we do that? Who are maybe the players involved? How is that presenting in the different areas of our psyche? So let's get into it. We'll start with the self and see how we do. And since it's Uranus in Taurus right now, that always makes me think of the creation myth for Aphrodite. Venus is the ruler of Taurus, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and Uranus is the father of Aphrodite. And she was definitely rebellious. I'm thinking of the myth with her and Ares and how they were having an affair when she had an arranged marriage to Hephaestus, the god of the forge. And the reason that she was married to him is because Zeus wanted to knock her down a peg. And so that act of having an affair with Ares was an act of rebellion. And it was an act of really self love, self worth. Because that was not a marriage that she wanted to be a part of. She wasn't given a choice. And I'm sure she would have been looked down upon for those actions. Uh, what about Zeus? Was Zeus looked down upon? Because he was really the person who created that conflict, the Five of Swords. Um, so conflict in the self, that is a very good theme for rebellion. That might be the rebellion stirring, for whatever it is you're up against. Uh, you know, I live in the States. Things are not looking so hot in the upper ranks of leadership. Quite frankly, it's a fascist regime that is taking hold. And it breaks my heart that this is what's happening right in front of our eyes. And our leadership is sitting idly by. Um, I mean, I'm seeing rallies and things like that. I don't know what the answer is, but from my perspective, it looks like idly sitting by. Uh, and so there's a lot of conflict in my heart right now about what I'm seeing. And the real conflict for me is the structures that allowed this to occur, and not like vote for who you want to vote for, right? There is an individual who now suddenly is occupying an office in the White House that nobody voted for. Don't like that. Don't like that at all. So the rallies are ways to raise our voice and ways to be heard. We need action, though. And since this is the swords, the element of air, it's very mental. So this may be that internal stirring of, okay, we have a problem. I acknowledge a problem. What are we going to do about the problem? Uh, and that, I mean, I went to a very macro example, but you could have a micro example or an example at that micro scale um, in your life. I don't want to minimize what you might be dealing with. But, and you've got a couple crows down here in the bottom left that I don't know if they've perished or are resting after battle, but they don't look like they're doing too hot. So, whatever it is that you're being defiant against, that you're standing up to, it might be really intense. Uh, and Uranus, I think, is the ruler of Aquarius, so the humanitarian, the innovator. So there might be just a lot of buzzing, a lot of stirring that the authentic self wants to see, needs to see a different world than what's being presented uh, in the 3D right now. And that could be causing stress, that could be causing rumination. So, as always, the self care is more important than ever. Uh, Talk to your doctor, talk to your therapist if you're struggling, of course, and find little ways just to help yourself get through the day. Because this mental energy can be really, really taxing. And one of the things that I've been doing recently to help manage my stress is floor time. Just plop down on the floor and stare at the ceiling. uh, it does help. It definitely helps cool off the nervous system. And I also have like the joints in my lower back are janky, so it's good to stretch out that lower back. And so whatever it is for you, and floor time is not going to fix fascism. It's not. You have to take a break though in order to be able to maintain your energy reserves to stand up to conflict, to whatever it is you might be dealing with. And I'll start shuffling for the shadow here. But there's a lot of big stuff in the ethers right now. And there's that solar eclipse in Aries coming up. And that seems to have a lot, like pack a punch with it from what I can tell. Because it's the last of its series in Aries. And then soon, I don't know, like probably not before, since I think the eclipse is on Saturday. But pretty soon, Neptune is going to be in Aries for the first time in our lives. So we've never experienced that type of energy. And it's very rebellious, revolutionary energy. So there's a lot uh, floating around right now, and I can just kind of detect the unrest despite doing everything I can humanly possible to stay disconnected. Like I want to be informed, but I'm like microdosing it because it's a lot right now. Uh, and like I already know where I stand on stuff. It's over on the left, very far. uh, I don't need the nitty gritty details like the doom scrolling and whatnot to know that we need change, to know that we need improvement. I don't need to torture myself with headlines that stress me out of like seeing the militant and law enforcement force protecting car dealerships where um, kids at school don't get that. And that is too many cards. My limit is generally 3, but these are actually really interesting. I might keep all 4 for the shadow because those kind of came out with a intensity. We've got the sun in reverse, the moon in reverse, the Knight of Wands also in reverse, and then the Three of Wands in the upright. Huh. And interesting, these Roman numerals are mirrored. Is that 21? Is that right? I don't know if I know how to read that. So happiness delayed, illusions revealed, a messenger delayed, and a bridge over troubled waters. So there's a lot going on in the shadow. Uh, this might be what's cooking in the self, the mental energy. Because this feels like you're seeing something for what it really is. You're seeing how you were negatively impacted by the prior illusions. And the Knight of Wands, that messenger delayed, like this with the moon in reverse, this almost feels like the deception. Like they're not specifically deception cards, but it's like you're finally seeing the truth of something. Like something came through, you realize something, and it's giving you a path forward. And it's in the shadow. So it didn't feel good. This was something that came up from the depths. Maybe hmm, this feels intentional. Like were you being deceived by something external? Like we can of course deceive ourselves. Like unintentionally, intentionally, and our brain can also cover things over that are traumatic to protect us from it. But it's like finally seeing the truth, or it's finally been revealed, and it happened fast because all those plopped out fast. Showed you a way forward. Huh. Start shuffling for the ego side. But that could definitely be speaking to an intense conflict in the self. Because I don't know about you guys, but like particularly with my past romantic relationships, when it's come to light that I've been deceived, those betrayal wounds like run deep, and they have a way of like turning inward, of like, how did I let myself get deceived? Uh, how did I not see this? So on and so forth. And I always have to really pause, like hit the brakes. Like, look, you were deceived by someone being deceitful. Uh, that's not on you. Like, you want to do your best to protect yourself, but if someone was going out of their way to keep something hidden, then they just may have been successful at that. It doesn't, that's not a comment on you. That doesn't mean it doesn't hurt though. And that there's a lot of that mental energy that comes with that rumination, particularly. Uh, and thank goodness for floor time when it comes to rumination, because that's a really good way to like get in your body. And I like to pull my knees to my chest and like rock back and forth to each side, and that helps loosen up the lower back quite a bit. And usually my cat will come investigate. So it's a group activity. But with the sun being in reverse, I want to say that like not all is lost. Like whatever ill luck or ill circumstances have befallen you due to this conflict or what have you, if it's an external force that was deceptive that you are seeing through the illusion of, the sun in reverse is still a happy card. It's just happiness delayed. Uh, hmm. I'm trying to think of something. My mind went totally blank. Weird. Maybe it's that illusion. Maybe it's an illusion you didn't want to see. Uh, I've noticed that with like traumatic memories, and whatnot. Like in my support group, when I'm talking about them, I might my mind might go completely blank mid sentence, and I forget like what I was talking about, like amnesia. And I need somebody to like help give me an anchor back into what I was talking about to like get back on track. But it's like the weirdest thing, and that's kind of what just happened. Uh, so this may be a really deep wound. There is still that Three of Wands, though. It's still a path forward. Like you're finding a path forward, and maybe it's through rebellion. through standing up to whatever has become clear to you. Because, I don't know, rebellion, I think, can make a lot of things clear. It can reveal people's true colors. Like, what are they like when the rubber hits the road? That was one of my gripes growing up. Is in my household, I would see a parent like standing up for things on social media, uh, attending specific marches and things like that, but then do anything and everything in their power to silence me. It was like everybody was allowed to have a voice except me. And what it took me estranging myself from my whole family to realize was that I broke the perception. That's why I needed to be quiet. Um, yeah, it can't maintain that carefully crafted mask with me throwing wrenches of truth into the gears. It doesn't work that way. Um, what's that like? When you're telling the truth, you don't have to remember what you say, but like when you lie, you do. And I throw a wrench into the gears because I just speak the truth and it just flies out of my mouth. I don't have to remember what I've said. I don't have to remember things in context and whatnot. Uh, that's not great for someone making a false persona and maintaining a false image of how supportive they are. Because that I think I've talked about this on this channel before. That particular parent, when I was still struggling quite a bit with the misdiagnosed seizures, and they weren't being treated properly, I was in really, really bad shape. And I was struggling on basic tasks like doing the dishes, stuff like that. And they saw me, like, they came to my apartment and saw that I was struggling to complete the dishes and criticized me and walked out the door. Uh, and then a week later, when they came back, I still had half a sink of dishes, and they said, needs work, walked out the door. Didn't lift a finger to turn on the water, to unload the dishwasher so that there would be space to load new dishes in there. But I'm sure there was some sort of smear campaign or gossiping or whatever back when they got home to the other family members of, oh, she's not taking care of herself, like this and that. Like, but also, and you just let that happen. Like, you just stood idly by and you let it occur. You're not a hero. You're really not winning parent of the year by doing that. But the problem is there were no witnesses. Uh, so it's their word, their carefully crafted public perception against mine. And that's where a lot of my rebellious nature came from as a kid because like I wasn't able to put the vocabulary to things like I am now, but I could sense it. Like I could, sense the difference between like why are you so different in private versus public? Uh and who knows what is in my missing block of memories from like ages 7 to 12. Most of that is inaccessible to me. That's not a great sign. That's not the sign of a happy childhood. Uh, and I know I've taken many a knock to the head. Those were later, though, at least that I remember. uh, But that's the kind of stuff that, like, they're not going to tell anybody that. They're not going to be like, oh, yeah, I saw that she was struggling and I just criticized her and I left. Was I supposed to be a good person or something to my only child? What? Preposterous. uh, that's the part that they'll never say, and that's fine. If they want to be that way, be that way. Uh, that's how you lose your relationship with your children. Hopefully, you guys are not dealing with something that extreme. And man, heavy topics. This reading that I've already talked about. Uh, I wish I had lighter things to speak on, but there's just a lot going on right now. And it seemed like with everybody, this seems to be a pretty consistent theme that everybody's carrying some pretty heavy weight right now. So I'm wondering how this is going to present in the ego. Like, how is that showing to the outside world? I have a tendency, I know, to repress my emotions. And I'm getting better about not repressing them until I explode. I was pretty bad about that for some time. That's why I like to tout the benefits of going to a support group, because it's a good way to vent, to at least get off a little bit of steam. Because that mental energy, that rumination can build up really, really quickly. And it seems like the cards have gone quiet. Oh, never mind. It's like that, when you're trying to figure something out and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna ask for help, and then like you figure it out like right as you ask for help. It's like that. So Queen of Cups in reverse in the ego. So in the upright, this is generally a very nurturing energy, and it emulates the moon card with the like the crab and the moon, and then I think there's a fish here too. Yeah. So in the reverse, this kind of feels like F around and find out. Uh, and that could be the shadow side of Pisces too, the 12th house. Because there's that, like, the overly altruistic, like codependent shadow side of Pisces. But there's also like the putting your foot down side of that. And that's something else in a Pisces. And with that energy, the bull energy behind that, that's pretty tough. That is unyielding, would be the word I would use to describe that. Uh, this kind of definitely feels like just no more. Like, I was nurturing, I was patient, and that was stomped on through illusion. And some sort of harm befell me due to these choices of some sort of external actor. Like this almost feels like somebody knows your shadow and they're playing on it intentionally, or they did, and it's created conflict. And now you're pushing back. See, get some underlying here. And since we were talking about, the moon and that those emulating each other or mirroring each other, um, that's Cancer. So highly emotional, maybe emotional context. And I don't know if you can hear that, but there's a confirmation siren outside. So something intense. And I wonder, where's that book? I want to see what the book says about reverse Queen of Cups. Mm. The reverse Queen of Cups is someone who is trapped by her feelings. She has learned to suppress her feelings so as not to become too emotional. As a result, she may feel disconnected. So I had talked about that, about like repressing feelings. That was something that I did, and then I would do it to the point of explosion. But you've learned quite a bit. Luck on the bottom. Um, but you've learned quite a bit here in the shadow. So, and since the theme is rebellion, this could be presenting in the external world as you are no longer repressing your emotions. That maybe not like letting them explode, but you're not hiding them anymore. Uh, so it's like a controlled burn. Like I don't know about anybody else, but those always make me nervous. uh, like yeah, it's controlled, but it could quickly that state could quickly change, and that's how that feels here in the ego. You might also be in observer mode, because the book said disconnected, but there's also the art of detachment, of being able to take a step back from your emotions, and still engage with them, but not be totally immersed in them. Hmm. Seems like a lot going on though, and I've said that so many times already. Uh, Understandable why there is conflict energy in the self. And since this seems to be an emotional conflict, maybe you feel torn. Maybe you feel torn about something. And that bridge over troubled waters, that could speak to a change in the nature of the relationship with somebody, especially if somebody's like intentionally playing on your shadow and pressing at those wounds. Uh, the nature of that relationship should change. Ghosts, yeah, ghost them. Who cares? Uh, if anybody's treating you like that badly, you don't owe them respect. Like, I've never. That's another. Oh, she's rebellious. Uh, like this whole on principle, like take the high road. Like two wrongs don't make a right, said the person who benefited from the first wrong. Uh, question the author of those sayings. And I don't know. I just don't I don't agree with that, like take the high road with somebody treating you poorly. Why? Like you don't need to stoop to their level. Go lower. I'll bring a shovel. Uh but like they also don't deserve your respect. Like if it's more prudent for your wellness, like just disengage, just ghost. Uh and yeah, that might be a crappy thing to do, but also and how are they treating you? Like are they treating your relationship, whatever the nature of that is, with reverence, with respect, with like I don't know, just the audacity of expecting to be treated with kindness and whatnot after treating someone poorly is just so audacious. And I'm not saying like lay into them and whatnot, but do you really owe them an explanation? Like, this is an adult we're talking about, like, at least in the examples I'm thinking of. Uh, they are capable of understanding their own behavior. And if I need to explain to a grown adult that abusive behavior is hurtful, harmful, etc., ad nauseum, what's the likelihood that they're going to change? And what's the likelihood that I'm going to get hurt more? It's a lose lose situation, like when somebody's treating you like that. So we've got coffee or tea outside, maybe a breakfast on the balcony or something, and middle of the night, Ellie do. Doohy. Someday I will learn how to pronounce that. Or I will change the card to Loveless because I know how to pronounce that one, the pop punk. And I don't know what part of the world you're in, but it's unseasonably warm where I am, so it is a nice time for coffee or tea outside. That may mean we're in for a snowpocalypse up next, so might want to get that in while the time is nigh, or the time is ripe, whatever. But overall, I hope this helps. I hope this resonates, and if it doesn't, I hope the next one does. Thank you so much.